Hello, my friends. John LaRuffa here with another Straight Up Solo. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at Legacy of You. I'm going to do a spoiler-free overview of this, and then I'm going to tell you what I think about it. All right, let's get started. Okay, folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And if you have, thank you so much for the support. I truly do appreciate it. So this is what the game is going to look like when you set it up. And I've played a little bit, a couple of games here, so I feel like I can give you a good review, but I did not want to spoil anything. So I made sure that the cards that are out here, nothing should be anything from the content I've unlocked. So a couple things. Number one, I think they did a good job with the storage tray, kind of keeping it all together. That is cool. You can play right out of the tray, which is nice. I appreciate that. Number two, the storybook is well organized, pretty simple to use. And number three, the game takes a very small amount of time to set up thus far. Okay, so I do like that. Now, what you're doing in this game is you're basically trying to race against this flood, okay? And this flood is going to advance on you every time you shuffle your deck of available cards over here. And at the beginning of the game, you're going to start with 10 here, and this deck can get bigger or smaller depending on all sorts of things that happen. But mostly it gets smaller when the raiders, the barbarians, come and destroy your village cards. They go out there. They say in the rule book, they are going, you send the villagers to go negotiate with them. But anyway, that's one way. The other way is you can send the villagers away. You can kind of dismiss them to get better rewards. So at the beginning of the game, or at the beginning of every turn, you do this harvest phase, and I'm going to do this right now just so I can show you some more of the cards that are in here. But the first thing, you'll start off as a base draw of 4 cards. And so you'll draw these 4 cards right here. And these are randomly determined through your deck of villager cards. And then you get 1 white worker, you get 1 of these shells, which is basically like the currency of the game, and 1 provision. Now, you will get more stuff during your harvest phase as you unlock other things. So, for instance, as you build these orange buildings, you'll get different color workers, which can help. Or, I'm sorry, well, you'll get a white worker or another provision or a worker of any one color that you want, not white. And you could build these in any order. You also get some additional things from cards when you tuck them in. So one of the things that you can do in this game is take these cards that you have available here, and you can slide them under your board, and that will give you a permanent income based on that card for the rest of the game. And you can unlock more of those slots by building these huts. And when you build the hut, a couple things happens. Number one, the slot is unlocked. Number two, you're going to place this hut down in some space that gives you a one-time bonus. Number three, you're going to look at the card, and the card might have, like this right here, will be turned to story event number 1. And you look at story event number 1, and that may add or subtract cards. It may do different things. All this stuff could happen, and that's kind of the joy of the legacy, resettable legacy game. And it'll also open up other spots where you can put your workers, and when you put them in these spots, they will come back to your hand instead of being spent. So that's one thing that you'll do. You'll try to be building these huts. You'll try to be building these little these barns. You'll try to be building these little storage units or whatever. I can't remember exactly what they're called. The more of these that you unlock, the more money you'll get. And also that will help you make the whites wild to other types of workers in different colors, which is important because you're going to need different color workers basically to deal with these barbarians. The white workers are your builders and will handle most everything out here except for these last couple of cards. You'll need some specific colors, but these barbarians, always you're going to need some type of workers to deal with them. Now, so the next thing you're going to be trying to do, and the main meat and potatoes of the game of what you're trying to accomplish, is actually construct these canal cards. To build the canal cards in your turn, you have to spend a specific number of workers and money, and you can only build 1 canal per turn. Once you build the canal, you'll move the boat, then you'll flip this over, and then you'll reveal what it says. In this case, there is nothing special on the back. Some of them, I'm sorry, there's nothing on the back, pardon me. You'll get what's on the bottom. It may reveal a card, pardon me, on that will say, look at story number 44, look at story event number 24. And those things might unlock different things that you have to deal with. And they may be things you have to deal with for the rest of the campaign. It might be things you deal with just for this game. For instance, I had a couple cards unlocked before, which I'm not going to show you the specifics on them, but one of them put forth a condition that I had to work on throughout a game. Another one put forth a situation that helps me to improve my economy a little bit. And so I think the main draw to this game is throughout an entire campaign, you're not going to see all the cards. You see between 40 and 60% of the cards. And so the big kind of joy and excitement of it is as you play through, you're unlocking different things which put little twists into the game, and that's interesting. The meat and potatoes, though, is you're basically building up this deck, and you have to use these cards along with as many of the resources that you want to use. You don't have to use those, but these cards have to be spent every single turn. And if you spend them, if you just discard them to this exhausted area over here, then you get the top bonus right there. If you discard them out, you'll get the outright, like out of the game, at least for now. Maybe there's a way to get it back in. You'll get the top and you'll get this red, so you get both those icons. This bottom icon, you ignore that for the beginning of the game, and I won't reveal what it has to do with anything because that's a little bit of a spoiler. So basically, that's the way the cards work. You're either going to be tucking them under or you're going to be playing them to get some resources. Okay, and the resources vary, but you can see a good smattering. And the decision space is, do I want to put them here so that when I shuffle back, I can shuffle up my deck and keep it fat, eventually, like, delaying the number of times that this flood's going to advance? Or do I want to spend them for what I really need? I know I'm not going to get that card back in the deck, but I will be able to get something that I need that's crucial. For instance, if I really need another white worker, I would spend this guy, get the 2 provisions and the white worker, put him out, and then get all that I need instead of just the 2 provisions. The other thing is that you can spend provisions to add townsfolk to your deck, and the first one is free. And when you do that, you put them in this pile right here, so they don't come up right away, but they'll come later. And that's really important because the bigger your deck, the slower the game will progress into beating you. If you ever fill this row up, and what'll happen is as you start to build the canal, more and more barbarians will need to be added every single turn. And they're going to kind of push down this way. And if you don't deal with them, they're going to literally push the villagers out. And if you end up with 7 barbarians in front of you, or more than that, you immediately lose the game. You also immediately lose the game if the flood were to move onto a card that you have not built yet, the canal you have not built yet. And finally, you'll also lose the game if, let's see, I haven't lost it. If they, so it's the flood, if they destroy you over there, and then also I believe it's, what's the last thing? Yeah, damage the flood, the barbarians. Yeah, if you need to destroy a townsfolk in here, but you don't have any more left. So if this completely gets exhausted, that's how you lose. You win by building all these canals and then surviving the end of the game, including the barbarians coming out and any flood that would happen, basically getting to the end of the round and being done. So that's pretty much the size of it. That gives you an understanding of what you're doing. And again, I don't want to show you too much. The turns are very free form because you're either playing cards or you're spending resources or doing what you need to do in order to kind of advance the game until you get to a point where you're done. And then you basically will put the barge back on the next card if you used it, suffer any of these attacks, which you can either pay some resources to not have to discard or you have to discard, and then refresh your card rows, and that's when you could potentially lose. All right, so let's go ahead and get to my review. So Legacy of You is a resettable legacy game, which I think is its biggest strength. And what I mean by that is you are supposed to get a lot of enjoyment out of playing this game over and over and even resetting the campaign and starting again with fresh cards and new things to explore and different things to happen, which I think is really fun. And that's the big part of the game, the legacy aspect that I like. I like the discovery that you don't know what's coming. You don't have any idea what the mechanics could be. You don't have any idea what cards could come out. If you lose the game, it gives you cards that will make it easier to win. If you win the game, it might give you cards, or it gives you cards that make it tougher to win. So there's a little bit of a balancing in that. But basically, in order to win the campaign or lose the campaign, you've got to win, I believe, either 7 times or lose 7 times total. Because as you're advancing, you're drawing these winning and losing cards out at the end of the game in these decks. And if you draw the golden card of one or the other, then that'll be where you finish up in the campaign. And that is definitely the strength, the strong point. The game itself is pretty easy to play and understand. There is a ton of tension, which is also really good. You definitely feel under the gun as the barbarians just keep coming and the resources are scarce and tight and you're trying to build that canal, but you don't have a lot of stuff to do it. And that forces some difficult decisions and a lot of trade-offs, which is why I think this game is enjoyable to play. But I've heard people say they were a little worried about it because it could be, repetitive. And I would say that there is a repetition here. This game does not take long. It says 60 minutes on the box. Yeah, I guess I could give it that. It could be about 60 minutes, I guess. Between 45 and 60. It's not much longer than that unless you suffer some serious AP. But it does have the same kind of mechanics over and over and over again. Now, they may, as I continue down the campaign, they're going to add different things, and I think that's going to change it a little bit. But I think that, it goes back to what I'm saying, is any individual game, it will start to add, but it starts pretty basic, and that's okay. I actually don't mind that. I think it's fun. I love the legacy aspect of not knowing what's behind the next corner, which I think is what you want to do if you play a game like this. So I think out of the box, it's pretty narrow as far as the scope. You're just basically playing cards, gathering resources, building stuff, and trying to get rid of the barbarians before they overwhelm you and build those canals. Pretty simple. But as you unlock different things, they put more challenges in front of you. There's more things to consider and think about. And I think that is cool too. So overall, I'd say it's a pretty decent game. I don't think it'll be for everybody. I think the people who really like Shem Phillips styles of games will find a lot to like here. But people who are looking for a game that has a ton of strategies that go in different ways in which you can win or lose, or win, I guess, try to win, I don't think you're going to find that here. I think what you're going to find here is there's going to be, it's all about the tactics, I think, as far as what you're doing. I mean, yeah, you can decide to focus a little bit here, a little bit there, but it's definitely a tactical game, from a standpoint of making sure you can outpace the things that are kind of trying to crush you, okay? There's not a lot of else things going on here. There's not massive production change. There's not some of the other stuff that you find in his games. And so some people might be let down about that. I would just use your own judgment on where you are as a gamer to see if this is going to be for you or for not. For me, the most important thing that I like about it is that discovery, that legacy, that resetability, and not knowing what's coming behind the next turn. Now, I will say one of the storybook itself is similar to the kind of stories that you would get when you play something like Arkham Horror or, snippets of story, right? It's not like a progression. I mean, it might be more of a progression as you go deeper. You can kind of see how it goes. But because the story goes in different spots, like you could pull number 24, you got to look at number 1 or 44 or whatever. There isn't nearly as much as, I at least haven't seen it yet, that, it's kind of like you're on this mission going forward with like something like ISS Vanguard, where there's clearly a major narrative, and that's a big part of this. This has some nice writing, and it's cool the way it's written. It's written from the first person of the kind of the canal builder, you himself, and what he's trying to do. I think that's cool. I think it adds a little flavor, and it's neat to kind of do that. But it's gluing those mechanisms together with a little bit more pomp and a little bit more, well, flavor, I suppose, than just, inserting a new mechanic here or inserting a new mechanic there, which is fine, but it's not like you're going to be like, wow, that was an amazing story. I don't think you're going to see that. I'm not sure they were attempting to do that either. So anyway, that's what I think about it. I'm going to enjoy playing it through. I think that there's a lot. The best part about it is it's resettable, and there's a lot to see that you won't see every play because you're only going to get through about half to 60% of the deck is what the what the author says there. So there's a lot to discover. I'm looking forward to it. All right, thanks so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. And whatever you decide to play in the future, I hope you have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy now.